Okay, we're back online. We had some kind of malfunction. I was talking about bee stings, and mostly when you mention bees, that's the first thing that pops into people's minds, because bee stings are stings of hornets and wasps, and that can be very painful. And for a very, very few people, it can cause them big trouble. So the stingers on bees are hollow, and they inject a poison, and one of the constituents of it is formic acid, and I don't know all the other things. But once I saw a picture of a bee stinger in a book, a micro photograph, and I had it copied at a copying place and had a blown up many times the actual size. And so then I made this little sword to impress children who used to come out here all the time.
Can you hold it up sideways? Yeah. Right there.
This is perfect. What a bee stinger looks like. All these little barbs in it. So when bees sting you, it tears the stinger right out of their abdomen, and then the poison sac connected to the stinger contains the poison, and then it pulses even though the stinger is detached from the bee. So you got this stuck in you, and you're getting. But the thing is, when you don't really get to know bees until you get over a lot of your fear of stings, and because the fear blocks you from being able to tune into their finer sensibility. So, but it takes a while to get used to the fact that you're operating with somewhat of a threat of getting stung, even though you can reduce that tremendously by wearing a cage over your head and a bee suit. Like, well, here's a good example. Want to show us your new outfit?
It'll just be one sec while I suit up so I can grab that camera.
Yeah, when you get done, will you move your guitar? I'm afraid I'll bump it or something.
Yeah, so. I'm just going to place it underneath the table. Okay. In the shade here.
All right, so we're going to have to move around a little bit. Oh, that'll be perfect. I'll just turn it.
Your veil?
Oh, just give me one that I could pop over my head, and bring, let's see, the lighter. Oh, it's in the back of my mule. The torch.
Can you give us a little twirl, Richard?
Can I what?
Give us a twirl.
Oh yeah, show us your outfit. Do a spin, a little pirouette.
By the end of this series, people are really going to know how to light a smoker.
Yeah. It won't take as long to light it this time. Well, I'll tell you what, it's almost one of the most important procedures in beekeeping is to be able to get a smoker lit and stay lit while you're doing your work. Extremely frustrating to have it go out.
I'll give a little wave from my bee veil as well. Bear with me, guys. It's kind of hard to see what I'm filming with the bee veil on. I will do my best.
If you throw it too soon, it goes out. If you hold on to it long enough, you burn your fingers.
You don't want the full thing.
No.
I might go get some bee close-ups real quick.
Yeah.
Just want to give a shout out to everyone who helped organize the skill swap this year and get it online. everybody who's participated in sharing all this awesome content, to Crosshatch and Title Track and the Earthwork Harvest Gathering team and the Earthwork Farm. So grateful to be able to connect with community in this way. The bees are really moving and grooving today.
It's right there.
Oh, and shout out to Festi and May Beal. May Beal conceptualized BTV and also is the creator of the amazing organizational hub known as Festi. We're so grateful for your work, May.
You could put this right over onto here, and then it won't be so heavy. Okay, Chelsea. All right, break it right there. Oh, oh, oh. That's all right. Now, can we turn it? All right. One of the problems in the bee yard is constantly losing your hive tool.
Love you, May.
We talked about this little tool before. It's just a mini pry bar, and it's an essential tool for working bees. So we're going to take a look in here and see if we can learn anything more about the bees and see how they're doing. This is a little miniature colony, basically, what beekeepers will sometimes call a nuke or a nucleus colony. And this plastic device in here is a feeder where you can put syrup in and feed them if they are in short supply.
What else do you put in that feeder, Bob?
We put some sticks in there, a little float, so bees don't drown in there.
Gives them something to climb up on.
Yeah, it's also corrugated on the inside, so
That helps.
yeah. So now we'll spray them a little bit with this Honey Bee Healthy, this herbal preparation that they seem to like, and it helps, I think, them accept the intrusion. Severe intrusion, really. You're taking the whole walls out of their house. I'm sure what it's like for bees inside there when you open it up, there's just like a whoosh of air and a lack of communication with the bees on the next wall, and so it's so surprising how well they take it. I just put my thumb on a bee, and you can see the stinger on my thumb. I'm going to scrape it off right away. Yeah. Okay, so these are developing baby bees in here in the pupal stage. When they are 7 days old, they are sealed off, and they incubate in these cells for 2 weeks. And then when they hatch at 3 weeks of age, they come out looking all powdery, like they've been dusted in talcum powder. And then soon after they get out, they start house cleaning duties. They start cleaning out the other cells that they came out of, so that the queen can come back and lay in there again. So one wall of the of the bee's house would contain, this is honey out here on the outside, and many combs will have pollen packed in there. Remember the sperma plants, which is their bread and butter, really, their meat and potatoes. And see, these cells are all cleaned out here. They're ready for the queen to come over and lay in. I can't see in there very well, but maybe there's larvae in there already. One thing that's gotten hard over time keeping bees is not being able to see as well. It takes pretty good vision to see bee eggs. They're little tiny rod-shaped hair, like about as big around as a hair, and you know, maybe less than a millimeter long. And it's really valuable to be able to see them.
Especially through a bee veil.
Pardon?
Especially through
a bee veil, yeah.
adds an extra
I
element.
hate wearing bee veils and gloves and that, but it's necessary to do it. Now this is, look at this frame of brood. There are thousands and thousands of baby bees incubating in here. I'm kind of keeping an eye out for the queen. I don't know if we'll find her or not, but we might. See, when these start hatching, the numbers of bees in this colony will explode. I mean, suddenly this colony will go from a very small colony into a substantial colony, and 2 weeks later you'll wonder where all the bees came from, and suddenly they're strong enough to start gathering surplus honey. These larger cells here are for raising of drones. And in fact, here are some drone...
Isn't this the queen right there?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Hey,
we
Rusty
found the
Richard,
key.
good eye. There she is, right there. Notice that there's a retinue of workers that follow her around. Not always easy to see. It wasn't until the 1700s that a guy studying bees figured out that the king bee had ovaries.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. Yeah. So it was a major mental adjustment for people. So where'd she go now?
We're still working on it,
Yeah.
making those adjustments.
I think she hid. She went around through that hole onto the other side. They don't particularly like, but look at all this brood in here. Collectively, all these cells are called brood. I mean, that is a beautiful patch of brood right there. And as a beekeeper, you're watching to see how consistently the queen lays. And it's hard to tell sometimes because for various reasons they can't necessarily stretch out and lay the whole thing without running into some pollen that was already stored there. But the more consistent the brood, which these are really big patches of brood. See, now she's hiding. I don't see her now. Do you see her, Richard? So it's really important when you enter a colony of bees to start out on the sides and work your way in, because in the process of withdrawing one of these combs, you can very easily hurt the bees or kill your own queen and make a colony queenless. So great care is necessary, and I always try to set things down really slowly and carefully, just out of partly for respect for the bees too. Well, mostly for respect for the bees. Boy, when this brood hatches, get out of the way. Oh, there's a drone. You know, the drones are much bigger than the worker bees. There's a drone right there. And their whole job is to be on hand in case a queen needs mating. And they don't do any other work. They have no stingers. He's buzzing like mad right now. He can't hear it, but he says, "What has caused me to be subjected to such indignity?" So, yeah. So in about 2 weeks, this hive should be just packed with bees. Way more than what we have here right now. You see, they're just so busy going about their job. So when they first hatch, they hang around for a little while, and then they start cleaning cells. And after that, they start feeding baby bees. And then after that, they become wax. They generate wax. And then after that, they're getting near the time when they start to fly. So they have to go outside of the hive for the first time in their life. And
I gotta be in my pants. Can someone grab the camera for a sec? Thank you.
we should have gotten a shot of that.
Well,
She had to be in her pants. Well, these are the risks of beekeeping. Where were we? So, when this colony gets powerful enough, then you can start adding more boxes to it. And a typical hive would have two boxes full of bees, and then you start putting on these smaller boxes called supers to catch the honey flow. So this yard of bees now, we put supers on this week. Can you scan it, Susie? Just kind of scan the yard and show the supers that are on the bees now, how it's changed. Nice underwear.
Thanks.
yikes.
Did you get it out?
I did, yeah.
Did it sting you?
It did.
Oh,
Oh,
It was stinging me while I was filming, but I just was trying to
well,
get it out of
at
there.
least it wasn't on the face.
Hey, it's kind of a rite of passage, right?
It is.
I think it's funny the first day that I got stung during BTV is the day that I suited up.
I don't know how it got in there.
I
though.
don't either. It's very peculiar.
Well, I guess.
earth workers, we're tough.
We're very tough. And tender. Tough and tender.
So this is what went into your leg.
Yeah.
Smaller version there.
Whew. Glad I made it.
Oh, you got your socks up now.
Yeah, I didn't. I had one untucked sock is what happened, folks. Make sure that you tuck everything in.
All right. Anything to be said that I have missed, Richard?
I cannot think of anything.
Okay.
I'm normally not asked to do any thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Are you saying you're just a drone?
He's the brawn for sure. And he might be the brains and the brawn. Here, I'll smoke 'em down a little bit so they don't.
There, you can put that other.
Oh yeah, I'll put it right up there. Yep.
Frank Youngman says, I'm going to add supers right now. I'll tuck my socks for sure.
Okay, cover.
Cover. How's our time? Anybody?
It's 10:35.
10:35.
Got about 20 minutes.
We got about 20 minutes. Now, Chelsea, you've offered to do a song that you wrote about that contains some information about bees, or
It's kind of just a little bit of bee love. There's There's one line in the song about singing to the bees, which is something I like to do.
Don't put this back.
Yeah, you can take them out now.
I feel like the bees like to sing in their own way. And I love coming down to the bee yard sometimes and just listening to the hum. And so there's a line in this song about that. The song, I actually wrote it for my bandmate, Natalie Lindsay, who I met through seeking permaculture knowledge. And she's taught me a lot about permaculture and just this bioregion. She knows a lot about native plants and things, and so it was kind of at the beginning of our journey, and I was learning about how permaculture is about whole systems design and being a part of a bigger organism.
A little would be good. That's good enough.
And so this song is just kind of about being in that organism, waking up in the morning and being a part of the farm, being one with the bees and the trees and the garden, which is something we like to do here every day, huh, Susie?
Yes, ma'am. Every day.
Thanks.
I'm not sure if I'm in the camera frame or not. I couldn't really see. I'm going to take my bee veil off
Why don't
now.
I move over? Maybe you can be sure.
Yeah, because I think my bee veil is kind of stuck on because of the way I put my pants back on after I got stung.
Do I need to smoke you?
I think that'll be good. I'm going to tune in real quick.
Hard to read a tuner in the bright light.
And a bee veil. Really? With a
And a mask.
Yeah.
And a hat.
They're extra protected here. So yeah, I just remember kind of when I was entering into the world of regenerative agriculture and regenerative community building, and like stepping into being on a landscape and really tuning into all of the little parts from the micro to the macro, and just the magic of being a part of something so much bigger than yourself, and you don't even have to go anywhere. You just have to be present.
Remember that little poem? You, the mouse, the bird, and the bee are parting of a spreading symmetry, each affecting to some degrees the fortunes and lives of the other three.
Oh, I love that. Will you say that a little bit louder, Bob, for the camera?
Well,
And then I'll play my song. But that is so perfectly.
it's so permaculturally
It is
flavored.
It is.
You, the mouse, the bird, and the bee are part of a spreading symmetry, each affecting to some degree the fortunes and lives of the other three.
That's so nice. Reminds me of orchard guilds. Maybe we can talk about that after this song. So the song is called Moon Kiss. I wrote it one Alden morning at a sweet little cottage not far from Torch Lake.
beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you, Chels.
Oh, yeah.
Even the bees are more relaxed than they were.
Oh, good. That was the thought about singing to the bees, is that maybe it would bring them comfort. I do think I might have to just take this bee veil off really quick before we continue the conversation. Oh gosh, it's like...
A little warm over there, Bob?
Yeah.
We are
God
cooking.
and sun.
Yeah.
I hope everyone listening is somewhere near a nice freshwater lake for the next 10 days or so, because they're going to need to go there.
Okay, so close. My shirt's sticking to me a little.
So some little thoughts about bees while Chelsea gets ready to come back. You know, it's said that for its lifetime, a bee can gather about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. So that's a lot of effort. And they have very complex eyes. I think they have 7 eyes. And there are thousands of facets on their main eyes. And they have abilities that we definitely do not have. So, you're back. Since I've known you, you've been involved and always talked about permaculture. What brought you into that area of that? I know your family was involved in rearing and selling plants, but
Yeah, I grew up around plants. My family has a plant nursery in Williamsburg called Barker Creek Nursery, and it's mostly native plants. And the funny thing is I think throughout childhood and high school I kind of resented it because I had to work there. I had to help family, and I was, I wanted to be out doing other things. And I left home when I was 18 and went out to Colorado and was so far away from the forests and plants here. And yeah, so I started missing it then. But my journey to permaculture actually started with a journey to seeking wellness and tuning into like my personal health and my body system. My dad's a paraplegic, and he was always prescribed really intense pain medicine for his nerve pain, and he didn't take it for a long time, and then once I was in high school he had to take it to get out of bed in the morning. And my stepmom was like, there has to be another way. There has to be a better way for him to heal, and that he can be present with our family. And she got into plant medicine and essential oils specifically. And she also started tuning into the plant medicine of her tribe. She's a Pokagon Potawatomi elder. And it was within 6 months his whole life changed. He didn't have to take opiates anymore for his pain. He had like color in his face, he gained weight, he was able to sit down and finish meals with us. And then she started experimenting with us, with me and my little brother's allergies and her migraine headaches, and suddenly we were like finding solutions for all of these things that had been like chronic discomfort in all of our lives. And so when I moved out west, she would send me these care packages with essential oils and salves and teas, and I started doing my own research. And I lived in a ski town then, and I just remember all my ski bum friends were always like breaking their arms and spraining ankles or having morbid hangovers, and they would come to me and come sit in my room, and we would play with different plant medicines. And so I was like, there's something really to this, and it like ignited this passion in me, and this insatiable curiosity. And then I decided to go to massage school, and I started tuning into the body systems and how they're all interconnected, how important, and I got back to like, well, essential oils are powerful, but the most powerful thing we can do is eat well.
10:45.
And so started tuning into diet and eating whole foods again, and then seeking out fresh foods and then organic foods. And then I was like, wow, the cleaner and happier that the food is, the cleaner and happier like my system is, the cleaner it runs, the more energy I have. And so I started following that, and I followed the food back to the garden and the soil, and then I started realizing that there was some really serious gaps in our food systems in this country and around the planet, and that, you know, we were trying to get all of this food out of the soil, but we're not giving anything back to the soil. We've lost over 50% of our topsoil in the last 50 years. And so that's what kind of led to permaculture. I was like, okay, in order for me to feel like I'm getting the best food and being the happiest and the healthiest, I have to actually tune into nurturing the system I live in and giving something to the soil. And so permaculture drew me in because I got really attracted to soil building. And basically, this long story, it loops back to, I just remember one of the most magical moments when I was learning about permaculture, and when it kind of clicked, like the whole system's design. We are mimicking the patterns in Mother Nature, or maybe not even so much mimicking them as we are showing up for them, to support them so they can thrive. And I was up at Soul Springs Permaculture Farm, just north of Harbor Springs, and I saw my first plant guild, intentionally planted guild. And they had planted all of these companion plants around this apple tree, and they built a hugelkultur mound around the apple tree, or kind of banking. It's kind of like a snake-shaped hugelkultur, similar to ours but smaller. And the apple tree was in the lower S curve, and they had all of these beautiful pollinator plants that the bees loved, bee balm and calendula and borage. And then I learned that all those plants were also putting different nutrients into the soil that specifically benefited the apple tree, but also benefited each other, adding nitrogen or accumulating phosphorus, and kind of building this hub. And it was inviting all of this amazing microbiology to come and thrive in that soil. And the soil is just so dark and rich and beautiful. And then also each one of those plants was an herbal remedy for something that humans experienced. So this guild, every single plant in it was offering something to the apple tree, to the soil, and then to the bees and other pollinators. And it was oh, that's what community is, you know? And it gets back to what I think a lot of us have experienced during this pandemic, and just naturally falling into this energy of mutual aid, is okay, we all have something. We all have natural gifts we are born with, and these tools that we've picked up on our journey. Each of us has something to offer to the land and to each other, you know, and to the greater whole. And so in that way, I think that planting and participating and witnessing the tree guilds and the interconnectedness on the landscape has really informed the way that I interact with community now, and the way that I want to show up as an activist and a good neighbor.
So how about a quick definition of guild from a permaculture standpoint?
Guild from a permaculture standpoint, I mean, for me, it's just it's a community. I had not heard the word guild until I had gotten to Soul Springs Permaculture Farm, except for in reference to live action role playing, or you know, in some of these fantasy video games where you have a guild, so you guys all get together and you go out on the hero's journey, and everybody has a different, you know, superpower or weapon or somebody's a medicine maker, like somebody can guide you through the forest. Okay, I don't play any of these games, so I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I had a roommate that did, and he was always like, oh, I gotta get online with my guild. We're taking on, you know, whatever the adventure was that day. But it's just like this community that's built on symbiotic, reciprocal relationship and exchange, where the parts are greater than the whole. And it creates this supportive, interconnected system that there's a safety net. The other thing about the guild is that each plant had another plant in the guild that did what it did and something else. So if that plant failed, the other plant was still offering something. So there was a system of like backups. It's just like a big community network and safety net.
So how are we for time?
We are at 10:52.
Perfect.
Yeah. Right, so I guess I've been coming at this for over 40 years from the standpoint of ecological diversity, and also a great love of seeing soil being built. Like there's something so satisfying to turn down a green manure crop and think that the soil, through these somewhat unnatural processes, is getting richer, especially soil that was much richer before humans laid foot on it. And that's the thing, we haven't paid attention to soil building processes very well. We've opened up land so the wind blows the fine particles of clay out of the soil, drying it up so much that microbes have a hard time working on organic matter that is not accumulating in there every year like it would if in a wood. So permaculture suggests to me that humans need to study the natural order of things and to figure out if they have something valuable to add to it, and with considerable humility try to help nature build a more complex diversity that seems healthy. And it's not the easiest thing because humans have been studying how to exploit it for so long that to take a whole nother look and and sensitize yourself to it and watch it and ask it what it needs. And keeping bees is a lot like that. I think that's so.
I agree, and I think, gosh, when you're speaking, it just reminds me of what is being asked of us in these times. How do we support the land? How do we support the bees? And how do we support each other? And I think that is just it. You can really take from permaculture. The first step is observation. Oftentimes, if you get a permaculture landscape, you're supposed to observe it for a year. But you can probably attest to observing this landscape for 40 years that you're always learning something new.
It still has many secrets.
It still has many secrets. And to really step back and observe and listen, and then tune into yourself and say, what do I already have and where do I fit into this? Instead of just trying to insert yourself into a place and guess what you should do.
And it's constantly changing.
And it's constantly changing.
Every day.
So just being present with everything.
Your guitar's kind of in the hot sun.
It is. It's getting hot. So yeah, I've been humbled by this journey, and I've only been on it for 5 years, and watching you interact with this landscape and seeing the deep relationship you have with it and seeing the ways that you're still learning every day, you know, it's really inspiring. And it's also just a reminder that being present with the land, it's an ongoing journey. It's an everlasting moment that's just constantly going to shift and change.
And as you sensitize yourself more and more to what's going on, a lot of the draws of society fall away. There's so much satisfaction in wondering how much it rained last night, or what the bees are working today, and how much weight did they gain, or are those queens laying yet? Or, I mean, it's like the smells in the bee yard, and
Did the woodchuck come back?
Is the woodchuck still at large? Yeah, how do we love this aspect of the ecosystem? And
How do I form a symbiotic relationship with the deer mice in the
Yeah.
Hill House?
well, those are hard questions. I mean, do you let them have their way with you? Or do you say, hey, this is my place and you stay out of here?
My
which-
territory.
Yeah, my territory. And well, almost all creatures do have some kind of territorial imperative, even though some have highly socialized, like fox squirrels, which I happen to study, have a social hierarchy network. But at the end of it, each individual squirrel is responsible for himself, and there are certain boundaries that even in a complex social system like that a squirrel would maintain. So somehow, in order to survive, you have to be sensitive, and you also ought to be able to
Have good boundaries.
protect yourself, because the stingless bees never have any honey. So, so you have to be able to, protect yourself, and some of these emotions that we eschew can be quite useful sometimes. And the more you develop them properly, the less you need to use them, like anger, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Are we at 10:55?
We're at 10:57.
Oh,
57.
Yeah.
do you mind hitting the finish button?
I
Might be hard to
can't
see.
really see.
If not, I can do it. We'll sign off. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.